Hello, my name is Paul Coleman, and I want to thank you for taking the time to go over this brief presentation on the use of Spanish English cognates in the classroom. We're going to look over four different things. First, what is a cognate? Second, how to apply Spanish English cognates in the classroom. Third, resources available for teaching Spanish English cognates. And then finally, we'll look at a sample lesson plan involving the use of Spanish English cognates. What is a cognate? We're going to talk about what a cognate is and what a cognate isn't. We'll also touch on some false cognates as well as look at some real cognates, or rather cognates that you can use in the classroom setting. Before I do that, though, I'd like to point out that 30 to 40% of all English words have a related word in Spanish. This can be a huge advantage to English learners who speak Spanish. Here's an example of a cognate. So, as you saw in the previous slide, cognate refers to an origin of a word, or where a word comes from, not necessarily meaning. So, while there are words that have the same origin in Spanish and English, their meanings may differ. We are going to focus on, in this slide, examples of words which have the same cognate or origin and also retain their meaning in both language. So for instance, you look at the English word class becomes the Spanish word clase, which of course means a group of students. You look at the English word accident becomes the Spanish word accidente, which means something bad or some type of mishap that occurs. Decoration becomes decoración and really becomes realmente. This is a huge advantage for Spanish speakers. Once again, 30 to 40% of all words in English have a Spanish cognate. Moreover, they have a great crossover in technical and academic language. So if you have a student with limited English who is in perhaps middle or high school and having to deal with science words like exploration, exploración, or information, información, they can easily apply the concept of cognates to their learning. Before we get into that, though, I do want you to be aware of two things. First, be aware of the false cognate. There are plenty of sites out there that can give you these words and can give you an idea of some of the words that you need to avoid or at least be aware of. This cartoon is an example of one of the most common and most referenced, which is embarazada. Okay? Embarazada, although it sounds like embarrassed, does not mean embarrassed. It means pregnant. Along with words like constipado, which simply means congested, but sounds like something a little worse in English, are examples of false cognates. Second thing you should be aware of is the great variety of Spanish spoken in the United States. According to the Asociación de Academias de la Lengua Española, or the Spanish Language Academies, there are 22 countries in which Spanish is the national language. That's over 440 million people worldwide. As you can imagine, this leads to a lot of different words coming into the classroom. So, a student from Cuba may refer to the teacher as profesor, which of course is a cognate to the word professor, while a student from Central America like Guatemala would refer to the student as, would refer to the teacher as maestro. So it is important to know these subtle differences in meaning and words and vocabulary used when teaching Spanish speakers. Now we're going to focus on how to apply cognates in the classroom. The first way to do so would be with a word wall. And here we have 3 examples of cognate word walls, all with different types of uses. From left to right, you can see we have Spanish cognates being used for geometry terms. So you have triángulo is triangle, rectángulo is rectangle, los números are numbers, el calendario is calendar, and so forth. On the other side, you have puentes multilingües or multilingual bridges. I like this word wall because you can insert different words in there depending on what type of lesson you are teaching. In this case, again, we're looking at math words, specifically geometrical words, which come from Latin and Greek, which have wonderful cognates across the languages. And then finally, in the second part, the central part, the middle slide allows you to take it on even further with your use of cognates, which is looking at the morphology of words. So you can see words that end in OUS are equal to words that end in OS or, OSO or OSA, like famoso, famous. IST are equal to words that end in ISTA, like dentista or periodista. You can look at IZE words are equal to IZAR words, memorizar, to memorize, and then INE to INA, like gasoline to gasolina. All right? Taking this step even further, we have examples from a collection of works from the Monarch Book Awards, which is an annual award given out through the Illinois Public Schools, of books and the morphological regularity presented in each book. So for instance, if you look at the top, you'll see Waiting for Wings from 2006 has the morphological regularity of ante, or ante, fragrant, fragrante, or restaurant, restaurante, going on and so forth. So this is a way to focus on specific words with your students that you're going to be reading in a picture book. So you have the photo that you can point to, you have the word in English, and then they also have their list of cognates, or in this case, their morphological regularity tool, or key, where they're able to make that jump between Spanish and English. And although it may seem simple, it's not always clear to a Spanish speaker that these types of connections exist. So you, as a ESL teacher, will be making those connections for them, and not only teaching them one word, but teaching them a method for going forward and reading other texts and words they may not know in English, but may be familiar with in Spanish. Again, I mentioned resources, and these are 3 articles that are available for you through many different sources. If you're a student here at Asbury, you can look them up directly via our portal at the library. But we have Alison Briceño, Vocabulary and Sentence Structure in Emergent Spanish Literature, and then Hernandez, Erter, and Montelongo have written several different articles about using Spanish-English cognates, and they give you lists and also a website that you can go to that has different lists of Spanish-English positive cognates, or words that correlate to one another in meaning, that you can use in your lessons. And even better, they give you, if we go back to this other slide, they give you books that are ready to go with lessons. So finally, I want to take this idea of front-loading the vocabulary with a word wall and then going in and using a book in teaching cognates. So you'll see the book is called The Gingerbread Girl. It's from 2006. And you will see that language objective 1 is to teach cognate vocabulary words. So you have, again, the aroma. Aroma is the same. Fabulous to favoroso. Implore to implorar. Insist to insistir. Mind to mente. Suggest, sugerir. Surely, seguramente. View, vista. Second thing, though, which I think is even more important, is you'll teach the adverbial suffix generalization. So you have your ly to mente, and you have different types of words there that they will know. So you're not only teaching them vocabulary up front, but you're giving them tools to move forward when they see words that they don't know, or when they're going to try to spell an English word. They'll be able to get a better handle on it because they'll know that in Spanish, the mente will translate to ly, lie. And then finally, you're going to teach double consonants that become single consonants in Spanish. So for instance, if they know the word atención and they've learned that ción becomes shun, and they know that the single T or te in atención becomes a double T, they can remember and spell attention. Same thing with different to diferente, nali to nalmente, manner to manera, pas to pasar, suggest to sugerir. So that is a way that you can present them ways to spell in English better. So again, you have your lesson plan with 3 things. 1, front-loading the vocabulary. 2, using your adverbial suffix generalization. And then finally, enforcing spelling norms in English that may not always be clear or present to a Spanish speaker. So, to summarize, you've got the option to truly, truly, truly expand your literacy and your English ability for those students who have Spanish language ability. Beware of false cognates. Also beware of the differences regionally and nation by nation within the Spanish language. But I would say if you have Spanish language speakers that you're working with, and when we're looking at JCPS, for instance, over 60% of our students who are in our ESL program speak Spanish as a first language, you have a great leg up with those students being able to harness their already full vocabulary in Spanish. So I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my presentation.